and welcome to episode 26 of The Comic Conspiracy. My name is Ryan Higgins. I am joined by
Brock Sager,
Charlie,
and Toby.
Charlie and Toby.
We have guests?
I didn't even point to them. They just went right ahead and said their names. They're not even supposed to be here.
We have guests?
I guess we have guests again. Who are you? Who are you people? Charlie?
I help out at the shop here every other Sunday, and I've been reading comics for 20-plus years. Started out in mainly Marvel and kind of gravitated more and more towards DC.
Ah.
That sounds like everybody else.
So you're one of my employees, aren't you? Is
Technically.
Toby, are you one of my employees as well?
Depends. Depends on the day, I guess.
Well, no, Toby and Charlie have worked here even longer than Brock. They've been here for quite some time. It's actually around the time the original owner, the second owner sold the store to me. You guys both started working here. And yeah, so it's super part-time, but that's fine. That's cool. I need all the guys I can handle at the store.
You're so...
I know,
good save, by the way.
Exactly. I think, Charlie, you had a good kind of point there. Let's talk. You've been reading comics for a long time.
Yeah.
How old were you when you first started reading comics?
I honestly don't know. Probably 12.
Okay. So around the same time as me. But I know you, like me, like most people I seem to know these days, have sort of gravitated more towards DC, especially in the last handful of years. You are, as much as I love Jeff Johns' Green Lantern, you are like Mr. Green Lantern.
Yeah, I always kind of loved the character, and this current run has kind of given me a reason to kind of show everybody else why.
Nice. I've never seen... I mean, I could sell the hell out of Green Lantern, but you somehow even sell more than I do, and you're here like twice a month. So that's pretty impressive. I'm here every day. So, yeah. Charlie's love of Green Lantern knows no bounds.
Yeah, we can't pick it when comes out. It's automatically his pick.
Right. Charlie's pick is automatically Green Lantern when it comes out, and I applaud this.
As it should be.
Yeah. Now, Toby, you've got a bit of a different history. You didn't actually grow up in the United States.
Yeah.
You're from some weird...
Some faraway country.
Yeah.
So, I grew up in Europe, but what's interesting on me is my mom is Chinese, so I've kind of got...
You grew up in like northern Europe, right?
No, Switzerland, central.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, central. But like I said, I had a Chinese mom. My dad worked in Japan a lot, so... The first books I got was a freebie B comic that the bank would put out. So that was kind of how it started, and whatever manga that they would bring back. That's Doraemon, some of the older mangas, the classics. I grew up with those.
Because that stuff a lot of that stuff was not popular here. I mean, manga was not a thing here until basically this decade, last 10 years.
Yeah, I basically started on it before anybody ever heard of it. It was like something weird from this faraway country. But even then, I wasn't even here yet. So I was still in Europe. I was in Europe till I was 15. I grew up on a lot of the Tintin, the Asterix, what else? Tintin, Asterix, Marsupilami, Lucky Luke. Lucky Luke was a big one. And we basically read them at the library. So that was our big thing. There was one Superman comic that I bought at the train station. That was like my favorite book. I read it over and over again, and then I got a Batman one. And those were it. That was like the only two that were released in German that I could actually read at the time. Then DC Comics just kind of disappeared. It was kind of funny. And Marvel Comics started popping up like 5 years later. And they're all like these little trades. It's really funny. They were little trades. And all of us kids would buy them, and we would read them in breaks, and we would like trade the books of each other, because we only be able to afford, like, I get Captain America and the other guy would get like Fantastic Four, and we like trade each other to read the books over and over again. And
now a lot of those were, I mean, not current.
Yeah,
they were reprints of like the old stuff.
Yeah,
right?
It's really funny. We're like 5 years behind, because when I would come and visit my grandma here in the States, I would realize I'm like way behind.
Yeah,
so when time came where I actually moved here. I used to go to the store, and the Age of Apocalypse was on, and nobody explained. And my English was really bad at the time, and no one explained to me what was happening with Age of Apocalypse. So I come back, and I'm like, "Wait, Wolverine has one hand, Cyclops only has one eye. You know what the hell happened to my X-Men? These are not the X-Men I grew up loving and of course, nobody explains to me what really is going on, right? And when I came and visited, Gambit had a miniseries, and I had like number 2 of that issue, and I love Gambit from the cartoon. So I come back to the store, and there's one like right around the corner where I lived. I used to go to the owner, I'm like, I want Gambit. And it's like as much English as I could say at the time. I was like, I want Gambit. Guy looked at me like I was an idiot, going, no, that was a miniseries. And I didn't understand what a miniseries was. I just knew I wanted Gambit, right? So I come back, and literally the week after, I'm like, I want Gambit. And he looked at me like I'm some idiot kid that keeps coming asking the same question. So eventually, that's when the Age of Apocalypse thing happened. He goes, there, finally, there's a Gambit book. Here, go away, So, yeah.
Gambit in the externals.
Yeah, so that was like kind of my reintroduction into American comics. That's when Image was really big, and I was really confused what was happening over there. So, slowly, as I got to read more, I got, involved a little more. I'm pretty neutral in everything. I like, Marvel, DC, but lately I've been reading a lot of DC, and in the 90s I read a lot of the, early 2000s, I read a lot of the Chuck Dixon books. I loved all the Batman titles, the Bat Family. I love those. Yeah. So here I am.
Well, what kind of sets Charlie? You're a little more along the lines like me and Brock. It's kind of the more kind of standard American comics. But Toby, one thing that kind of separates you is besides the manga, you also collect commissions and art.
Yeah, I'm a big art guy.
So do you find? This is actually something we've talked about once or twice in the podcast before. So much art going digital only. I know you get more commissions. Than original art pages. But I mean, do you see anything in the art industry kind of changing because of literally all comics being done digitally now? Or not all, but large majority.
I mean, there's definitely some people in Artist Alley that are selling prints, like just prints. And, it's funny because I started with them because, coming in, as a younger guy, you don't have a lot of money. So you start with the prints.
Right.
And a fellow friend introduced me into commissions. I got really involved in the commissions, spent a whole lot of money there probably. And as my collection grew, I was kind of happy with what I had. So eventually I just kind of calmed down from it. I kind of was happy with what I had. And so I'm kind of back with the prints just because they're, colorful and stuff. But yeah, there's definitely some artists out there that are just they're digital artists basically.
Right.
And it's funny because with them, you could just get prints because you can't get them to draw something original for you. So it's kind of a fine line. It's really cool to get someone to commission something for you, which is like, he did it with his hands, as opposed to getting something digitally. There's a commission I'm hopefully getting soon. There's a girl named Jane. She is doing one where she already drew it, but she also wants to digitally color it now. So that'll be my first digital commission. Actually, no, it'll be probably my second one. I got one on DeviantArt. I didn't know don't actually get the original art. So there's a guy I'm doing commissions, and I was like, all right, I'm down for it. It was cheap. It was like, it was only $20, but.
You paid $20 for a JPEG?
Yeah, I guess so. I thought he was going to send me the original, so I was kind of confused about that. But, you live and learn, I guess. Yeah.
Interesting. That's cool. We'll have to.
And I definitely, I'm a little different than the guys here. I buy certain books just for the art. There's books I buy for the art internally. There's books I just buy for the cover. There's books I buy for the story. There's books I buy for the art and story. So I'm a little all over the place. So there's a lot of different things I like about comic books.
With that, I mean, I'm 80% story writer and story driven. I mean, there are some artists that I will definitely pick up, but it's like Frank Quitely. Well, how often does Frank Quitely work with anyone but Grant Morrison? So it's like there's so few times when
you and Charlie mainly get for reading material. I kind of get some stuff
you're like
for
a
cover,
little bit, and Toby's a little more on the art side. So.
Toby's more on the art side. I do get a little bit just for cover art and stuff, but not as much as you, Toby.
Yeah. I also buy a lot of kids' books, so my little, like I said, all over the place.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, that's kind of the thing. I mean, I think we get a little DC focused here and a little continuity focused, and there's so many different types of people out there that buy comics, and for so many different reasons. And
I want to talk about Marvel, but I just
you want to talk bad about
I can't.
Marvel?
No, I want to talk good about Marvel, but I can't. I didn't even pick up any Marvel books this week. I'm not going to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Marvel fan. I talked to Ryan about it quite a few times. I character wise, I'm pretty even on what I like on both sides.
Yeah.
It's just the Marvel side. There's nothing really that interests me in reading it. I mean, occasionally I pick up a book for the art only, but reading. I mean, not since Captain America. What's another book? Captain America's like the last one that interested me. But reading wise, there's nothing that has really grabbed me. That hasn't really grabbed my attention. So, sadly.
Charlie, I mean, you were a huge X-Men fan. You were a huge Ultimates fan. I know. I saw you eyeing that. What was that Extinction Agenda? No.
Executioner.
Executioner
Extinction
song.
Agenda was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, the Executioner song hardcover coming out. You got some old school Cable love. I know you and your X-Men love. But I mean, again, like I said, we cover at this point. It's seeming like so much DC stuff. I just don't see the interest in the Marvel books on a personal or a monetary value through the store. Our DC order this week was 3 times our Marvel order dollar wise. Madness, just madness. What do you think kind of caused your shift a little bit over to DC?
Well, I would say my main sort of books I pick up are definitely DC, but I haven't exactly stopped reading Marvel in a lot of ways. I'm still keeping up on The Incredible Hulk. I'm still keeping up on Captain America.
Yeah.
So there are certain writers and certain books that I will continue to read as long as they have a good story and even good art.
Yeah.
But I kind of got burnt out on a lot of what they were doing in the Ultimate Universe, especially because when that first started, it was sort of a modern-day telling of old comic stories to me.
Right.
And the more it detracted from retelling old stories, the more I started to lose interest because the new stories just didn't do it for me.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the double-edged sword of the Ultimate Universe is I don't really want to retell the stories because you just read the originals. But if you get too far from the base concept of the character, it's not the same character. So they either totally retell or start completely different to get a different audience. Kind of trying to balance both is real difficult.
Well, you look at the probably even the first 60 issues or so of Ultimate Spider-Man, and you had some really good modern-day retellings of origins of characters, reintroductions between Spider-Man and Doc Ock, where there wasn't a ton of history there, which you get in...
I have to say, I loved the Ultimate Spider-Man books early on. I loved those books,
When they did the Ultimate Spider-Man Wolverine movie crossover issue thing, something about that book totally changed after that, and it went downhill the next issue and never
That was the Hollywood story, right?
Yeah. I don't think that I've seen people specifically point to that story being the beginning of the end of that title, and it never recovered.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened, but after that, it was a 2-issue arc, total throwaway thing. I think it was only 2 issues. Right?
Yeah, it was 2 issues.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That was sort of the turning point, and I think that's where I stopped, and that's where I stopped a lot of the Ultimate books.
I stuck with it until Ultimatum, and then after that, I couldn't hold on anymore. It's just...
I've still read some of the stuff sporadically, and some of it's been better than others. But I mean, even before Ultimatum, when they did Ultimates 3, I just threw up my hands and kind of went, "Yeah, they're taking this too far away from the source."
Now, here's a perfect book where Toby, huge Joe Mad fan,
Yeah.
so something like Ultimates 3 you like, but
I was very torn. I was very torn. I wanted to like it, yet I couldn't.
That was an art buy?
Yeah, it was definitely an art buy. I don't think I read more than 2-3 pages, maybe.
I got further than you. I actually finished the first.
No, I finished it.
And
I may have actually read the whole thing now that I think about it.
I read the whole thing. It was
I read
abysmal.
the whole thing, and I've been trying to repress it.
Yeah, it was, as much as I love Joe Mad, I don't think that's his best work, sadly to say. I mean, like I said, I love the guy, but compared to his older stuff, Battle Chasers, it doesn't really compare. He filled a lot of the pages with characters, with action poses, and not a whole lot of things in the background, but like I said, it's definitely an art buy for me. I didn't really care for the story after 2-3 pages, so Yeah, but like I said, before that, big Ultimates fan, Ultimates, Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Spidey, loved all of that. And Fantastic Four, not so much, didn't really grab me on that one. But, I think the Ultimate X-Men, what killed it was the constant change of creators.
Yeah.
And once you do that, you kind of lose what made the book special. You lose the core, what, the book was supposed to be. So that's when they kind of lost me. I think it was like right after the Gambit story.
Despite going, kind of up and down personally from a creative point of view, Ultimate Spider-Man at least stuck with that creative team with Bendis and Bagley for like 10 years.
Yeah.
It was like
There's like good 100 issues, like 110,
issues?
118,
Plus a
something
couple
like that.
annuals.
Yeah.
Beat out Kirby and Lee for Fantastic Four. So,
It's very as a manga reader, it's very similar. Over there you got either the creator who draws and writes, or it's a creative team that just sticks together throughout the whole entire series.
Right.
And Ultimate Spider-Man feels, out of all the American books, feels the most like an Asian comic where the creators kind of in charge, even though Marvel owns it, but the creators more or less directing the book, for a good duration of the time. Yeah,
I know. Well, go ahead.
I was going to say you still see a fair amount of that in like Vertigo titles and
absolutely
even some of the other indie books and stuff. You see a lot of that where you just have a very consistent story. Some of them wrap up, some of them just keep going.
Yeah. Love 100 Bullets.
Yeah.
Love Fables. Why the Last Man. Great books. And, same creative team.
Invincible's really good. That's been pretty much the same creative team.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Walking Dead
it's creator-owned. Yeah, those are creator-owned books. The indie scene is pretty good right now.
I got a little jab on our last podcast where we finally talked about a non-white comic book, and it was Sailor Moon, because they reissued those Sailor Moon trades. So I think I want to throw. I think it was Kenza that said that, one of our guys in the forum. I think I want to throw him a bone. Toby, real quick before we get into what we're actually here about, we're going to go like 20 minutes and not actually talk about what we're talking about. You've been reading Bakuman?
Yes.
That's Tokyo. I'm sorry, that's a Viz manga
book,
by the guy that created the guy from Death Note.
Yes,
right?
yes, the creators of Death Note.
How do you liking that? I've heard really good things.
Yeah, I love that book.
Give a little.
It's basically a book about two manga creators. It's about these two kids that love comics, that absolutely love it. It's actually for anybody, you don't have to like manga to read it. It's basically two guys that really love comic books, and they go, "We'll really want to do this." It's actually one guy pursuing the other guy. So it's the writer. He wants to do, he wants to write, and he pursues this guy at school to draw for him. Eventually, they become really good friends, and it goes through this trial. There's a love story involved too. The artist likes a girl and she wants to be a voice actor, so there's some love story involved, but the book is very funny. It's very much everyday life thing, but it's very much about two guys that love comics, and they're just trying everything in their power to make this happen. You see him drawing at night, you see him, being half asleep at school and stuff like that. And it's really cool as a comic book fan to see that, especially, coming from a world where you try to do your own books and stuff like that. It's really fun to read that kind of book.
So have any of them found a book and then they started writing names in it and people started dying off?
That's the other one. Okay. But I have to say, though, it reminds me a lot on Slam Dunk. I don't know, it's kind of an older... it's one of the classics.
Oh, you like a lot of the sports manga, which from what I've heard from manga people, there's not a lot of sports manga that succeeds in the U.S.
Yeah, well, Slam Dunk is a classic to me, and it's hilarious, it's funny, and I keep recommending it to people, like, even if you don't like basketball, just read it.
Yeah.
And Bakuman kind of reminds me of Slam Dunk. It's like everyday life stuff. It just happens. Slam Dunk, it happened around the world of basketball. Bakuman happens to be around the world of manga. But the everyday stuff, the character development is very, very deep in both those books. And in general, a lot of the manga stories have very deep developed characters.
Yeah. Well, I think there was one more other thing we were going to talk about, the Alternative Press Expo, but I want to save that for the end real quick. Going actually longer than I wanted to for this introduction here. But we actually do have something we were going to do. Our initial attempt was to actually have the four of us sit down, since we've now read almost every single one of these, and actually talk about all the new 52 number ones from DC. There's no way in hell we're going to cover these all in 1 week, especially right now, unless we're going to be here for like 3 hours.
Yeah, 3 or 4 hours, and people don't really want to listen to a 3 or 4 hour long podcast.
Hey,
I don't think.
I would.
Well, I know you would.
We're going to split this at least in half. I think you guys
we're splitting in half. It's split in half. Boom, done.
At least in half.
No, we half.
Yeah.
The first 2 weeks,
I think we can
getting
do
it done.
I think we can do it.
Okay,
I think
we'll
we're
do the
fine.
first 2 weeks here. If you two are fine joining us next week, we'll continue this. Listeners, hopefully you're okay with this. We're gonna do some of these. We're gonna hit pretty quick. Some of these we're gonna have a little more discussion on. But let's do this and we'll talk about April.
Part one.
So we're doing 26 books on episode 26.
Hey, yeah,
there we go. See, we planned it.
Sure he did.
Yeah.
All right, for those of you that don't know, you must not have ever listened to this podcast before.
Or you live in a cave that doesn't have electricity or
Yeah.
internet, and you were a lucky son of a bitch.
Yeah. DC has relaunched their entire line of comic books.
Really?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
rejiggered them.
Oh,
Jesus.
okay.
Starting new origins, new backgrounds, new creative teams,
Kinda.
new characters, kind of new number. Well, every book started over at number 1. Some of the books are the same, similar. Some of the books are vastly different. And these number 1s all came out in the month of September, except for Justice League number 1 that came out August 31st, tying in at the end of Flashpoint, which is sort of like a Crisis on Infinite Earths event that sort of took us from the old DC universe to the new DC universe. These books have been the best-selling comic books in the last decade. I mean, there's only 1 or 2 books that have sold more than the number 1 book, and it's like that's the Obama Spider-Man issue, or like Civil War number 1. Like these are the only titles selling more. And when we combine them all, I mean, DC has had what can only be considered the best month in the like the modern history of comic books, like post-Image launch of comics. The numbers I think are out. I thought they were out this week, but I guess the official numbers are coming out next week, maybe. So it will be crazy to kind of see some official numbers there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So they release 13 issues a week for 4 weeks, except for the one Justice League issue. So we're going to talk about the first 2 weeks of books. We're just going to go down the list real quick on some of these. Of course, we're going to start with Action Comics number 1.
We're not starting with Justice League?
Well,
Because we talked about Justice League, but
okay.
Charlie and Toby haven't.
Do you want to give us a little shout out on Justice League?
Sure.
Artists?
Well, what do you guys said, or really briefly?
I mean,
Ryan?
I liked it.
I liked it.
I
I
think
enjoyed
there
it.
are better books. I think it's a setup. This is probably the only 6-issue story arc in current DC. You could tell it's a story arc.
Yeah,
Whereas
absolutely.
everything else, you could just you get everything on the first
Well,
issue.
with that being said, reading a lot of these new 52s, it seems like they're doing the old school. Read the issue, and boom! At the end, there's like the cliffhanger, and it's kind of fun to have those back.
Well, it's like you said, there was kind of this Marvelized feeling about it, and that's kind of how it was with the Jim Lee, Chris Claremont X-Men relaunch. It was that first 3 issue. It was like 3
He
issues.
was only on for a few issues, but yeah.
But it was it was just those 3 issues, so it's kind of like Justice League only gave us 4 characters out of the 7 that are supposed to be there.
3.
I think it's 3. Yeah.
4, Victor.
Well, but not
he wasn't
actually.
interacting.
Well, he was. It's showing where it's coming from, so it's an origin kind of thing. But we haven't seen everything, so like you said, this is spanning more than 1 issue, so it's going to have to be something that you are enticed to buy more of to get more of the story.
Yeah, with that said, a lot of books are hard to judge by the number 1 issue. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, what they did give us was pretty strong, and there's just certain titles that you can always read and go, this is going to be epic when the trade comes out, and you can...
Yeah.
You can kind of tell, yeah. Detective Comics.
Although I did like that guy online who digitally cut down the issue to 16 pages or something.
That's a bunch of bullshit.
That was actually, I read it. It was like, damn.
He just edited it out like white space and moved stuff around.
Yeah.
It's like, whatever.
And he was, Brock, what you think of Justice League in a couple words or?
Jim Lee's artwork with Johns' writing, it's a great combination. You had been saying it for years that Jim
Ryan
Lee and
called
Johns
it.
should do Justice League.
Yeah, he called it.
But yeah, it's definitely something that you'd have to for new people coming in, I don't know if it's necessarily going to grab their attention because we only see a couple of characters. If Batman, of course, is a grabbing character, but overall...
They started with Batman and Green Lantern on purpose.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Because of the movie. But, it's... I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait for issue 2 to come out, but that's in 2 weeks, so...
Yeah.
But even then, just in terms of sort of going back to what Toby said about the ending on a cliffhanger, that's what's going to bring people back to that next issue, and it had a good cliffhanger.
Yeah. Just getting ready for a beatdown.
Yeah.
So, I'm just hoping he whips out a kryptonite ring.
All right. Charlie?
Personally, I thought Justice League number 1 was a very enjoyable read. I had issues with 1 or 2 panels through the entire comic, and that's actually pretty good.
Which were those? Just curiosity.
The scene where Batman has Hal's ring for a panel was
You had a problem
kind of
with that?
jarring.
See, that's my favorite panel in the whole book. Yeah, I absolutely love that scene.
That was
actually
great.
that made the book for me right there. So
Batman is a badass.
yeah, let's leave it. Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah.
No problem. Being a huge fan of Green Lantern and having so much love for the character allows a certain amount of just going with it sometimes. And there's certain aspects of that book that I just kind of look at the way they're portraying Green Lantern and kind of go, okay, he's a rookie cop who just came out of the academy, who doesn't know what he's doing. And as long as I keep it in that perspective,
Well, this one's
it's
written,
all good.
Justice League's written in the past, so
Right.
Well, yeah, but we don't really have a idea at this point of how long modern day Hal has had the ring.
yeah.
So this could be, as I said, literally just come out of Green Lantern Corps training, came back to his sector, literally probably busted a couple of bank robbers or who knows what. But
So read Secret Origin, Green Lantern Secret Origin before you read Justice League #1. Yeah.
Well, let's move on to action here. I figure you go from one big book to probably the next biggest book.
Oh, sorry.
I know me and Brock talked briefly about the goddamn Action Comics controversy.
God damn
we
it.
don't need to cover that anymore. But yeah, I mean, Action Comics, it's Grant Morrison. If that was not my favorite #1 of the series, I would have a hard time saying what was. I just have everything Grant Morrison touches to me is gold, and this is no exception. You take a look at something like Final Crisis, which I understand people have issues with. You take a look at something like Action Comics. It is the most simple, straightforward, but fantastic book I've read in a long, long time. Probably top 5 Superman books I've ever read in my entire life, and we're one issue in. And it's like, oh, hey, look, this is as good as All-Star Superman. Hey, also by Grant Morrison. What do you know? Brock, what do you...
I don't know. Do you need the tissue over there for all the Grant Morrison
I might.
love?
I might.
In your pants? Anyway. No, Charlie, what do you think of it? Oh, wait.
for me, what it really comes down to is I loved All-Star Superman. It sort of captured, in essence, the character to me. When I read the changes they were making to the Superman character, I was very, very worried, but I kind of kept going back to, but Grant Morrison knows Superman. He knows the character. I kept going back to All-Star Superman. He hasn't sold me yet. As it stands, I'm still kind of thinking, trying to make an edgier Superman or whatever they're going for. We already have plenty of edgier characters. We only really had the one Superman Boy Scout kind of wholesome character and what he stood for.
But I think that's the whole point, is that's an antiquated form of thinking that they want to get rid of. And I don't want to talk about this for very long, but I find it very ironic that this Superman comes out at the exact same time this whole Occupy Wall Street thing has started, which if you've been following this and you know what I'm talking about, if not, don't worry about it. But it seems...
No, worry about it. Fine. Check out Occupy Wall Street if you can.
It's very topical and very today, and I think that's what DC needs to do, is they need to be current. And this is, DC's always been looking to the past, and whether Grant knew it, this is a Superman that would exist today in New York City.
Well, the first thing that threw me about Action Comics was his outfit,
Yeah.
which we've talked about before,
Yeah, it doesn't
which is
bother me.
it was just my funny commentary on what it looked like. But I think what you were talking about is, because I've gone back and watched a lot of those documentaries on DC Comics, and I'm reading Grant Morrison's Super Gods and stuff, and it seems like Grant Morrison actually went back and touched on those issues that we had in the original Action Comics, where he's going and busting, bad people, like criminals and money people and people who are up and ups, not just aliens or Lex Luthor's new machine or Brainiac or whatever. But I liked how Action Comics was a very, very great introduction to Superman, in the same essence of the Smallville kind of long, drawn-out introduction to Superman that we got from Smallville, where he's there but he's gone. He's there but he's gone. Mm-hmm. And but everyone is still wanting to know who this person is, and then yet we go and we see, him as a we see a little bit of who he is from Smallville and the small scene we see where he's at his apartment and stuff like that. So I think it was a good taking of a lot of characteristics of Superman and putting it to one issue.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'd really like to... I can't wait for issue 2 that comes out this week.
All right.
For some more reading on it. But I think Grant Morrison did capture a good Superman in this title.
Toby, what's your feel?
It's funny. Neither of you guys mentioned Lex Luthor in this, or very briefly, and I think that's my favorite part in the whole book is how, there's a conversation that goes on between Lex Luthor and this, soldier guy, and he goes, "You promised him.
Well, that's Lois's dad."
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. I wasn't completely sure. I didn't want to say that, but yeah. And I loved the last panel on it. I just loved Lex Luthor walking away, and without even saying that, I delivered him. He just kind of like, you'll be talking to me, and it just kind of really. I thought that was an excellent end to it.
Yeah.
I'm not really used to the Superman, but like I said, I hope things are for the better. The changes are. Yeah. I'm used to the old one. I mean, who isn't, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And that being said, when it comes to my concerns, I'm not dismissing the book yet at all. I'm going to keep reading it. I still want to see where it goes. I'm hoping I still recognize the character by the time we come out of it.
Well, we'll get to that.
We want to know where he gets that armor. Armor suit.
I'm going to have to say, though, I haven't read a Superman or cared. I mean, I love the character, but I haven't cared about a Superman book in, I don't know, even how many years. This is the first time where I'm like, you know what? This actually does, pique my interest, And real quick, I didn't get my 2 cents in Justice League.
Oh, whoa, what the hell?
Yeah. So, being a big Jim Lee fan I am, I have to say something about it. I love the book.
I'm sorry.
Jeff Johns is, great writer, as we all know. I do feel the book is a lot of action-based, so there's not a whole lot of character development, which kind of bothered me a little bit because I do want to know more about them. But, overall, I'm excited about the next issue. I'm not used to the younger versions of these characters, but, like I said, I'm excited for the next issue.
Cool.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm actually going to kind of skip around this list real quick so we can take care of the ones I know we don't have a lot to say with, so I know how much time we have to talk about the ones we do have a lot to say.
Okay.
Because otherwise this podcast is series going to be like 6 hours.
Sweet.
Let's do this real fast on a few of these titles here. Batwing. I liked it more than I thought I was going to.
I came back to it after a recommendation from somebody that worked at another shop.
Yeah.
And I actually I enjoyed it. It's not. I mean, it didn't completely grab me and say, "Oh, this is an awesome book," but it was an interesting enough read that I'm curious to see what happens with Batwing.
Yeah. Charlie?
Didn't really care for it. I'm probably not going to read the second issue.
I'm a little in between you guys. I liked it. I probably will read the second issues, although if I don't read it, I'm fine with that too. I gotta say, the character reminded me a lot of, do you guys remember the Captain America story where Captain was, he's in the black costume in the, the US and as a super soldier took over as a Eddie, forgot his name, but he had a African American Bucky.
Yeah,
and it reminds me a lot of that Bucky. I forgot he had a superhero name too, like Tall Star or something. I don't remember. Yeah, but it was basically his Bucky. I mean, and he eventually changed his costume. He had a different name. I have to apologize. I read a lot of these books in German, so sometimes the names are different. But he like when he was talking to Batman, it reminded me a lot of the other Captain America.
Yeah.
Talking to his Bucky, not not Steve's Bucky. Yeah. So it was kind of interesting. It reminded me a lot of it.
Art-wise, I really enjoyed the art in it. I thought it was really cool.
It was all right. It's different, It's a little like the Ghost Rider artist. I forgot his name, but yeah, it's cool, different. Yeah.
Yeah, the art was good.
Should I actually also? I'll do a real quick summary of what these books are about. This is one of Batman's many Batman replacements. Green Arrow. Let's go to that real quick. Green Arrow. It's basically Smallville's Green Arrow in a comic book. Probably one of the ones that was the least. I was fairly excited for a lot of these, kind of minimal on a bunch, no interest in a bunch. So something like Batwing surprised me because I had no interest and was actually better.
Yeah, I got to say, I wasn't going to read it.
Green Arrow, I was like, I'm pretty excited. I like the main book. This was pretty poor. I thought Green Arrow was pretty poor.
I haven't been reading Green Arrow, and I've never really been interested, but I picked this one up because it was Dan Jurgens' art.
Yeah.
And JT Kroll. And
I like them. I like them.
I like the Dan Jurgens' art on the book. The story was okay. It was enough to interest me and keep me going with it. I didn't absolutely hate it.
I mean, I'll keep reading for a little while, but one of the ones I was least interested in after I read it.
Charlie?
I didn't fall in love with the book, but I'm going to keep reading it for now. It was a decent enough introduction to where they're going with it.
Well, we were sold out of the book, so I didn't get to read it yet.
Oh, okay.
But that's it. Yeah, we have it in now, but I have to say, I don't think I like the look, which makes it really hard. I'm more of a visual guy, and it's really hard for me to pick up a book and read it if I don't like the visual look.
That kind of Smallville look.
Yeah, and you know what that said, I'm a big fan of the old Black Canary Ollie.
Right.
I'm okay with the changes of Superman. I'm okay with a lot of the changes. I'm not sure if I like it yet. I'm just okay with it.
Right.
If Ollie is, visually, that's not even Ollie to me right now. So, I'll read it. I'll let you guys know later, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Hawk and Dove #1 by Sterling.
Don't even summarize it.
Yeah, wait. I want to hear Charlie's review on this now.
Hold on, by Sterling Gates and Rob Liefeld.
It's so bad you're going to read the solicitation to talk about this book.
Hawk and Dove are the guardians of order and chaos. It's a guy and a girl is an old school Teen Titans character team up. Rob Liefeld is a notorious artist. Again, the writing was okay, but the art I'm not a fan. So we'll just leave it at that. Charlie, Brock, you've already said your piece. Charlie, you liked it? Is that what I'm hearing? Oh, okay.
No.
I was okay.
Charlie is going to have a really, really short review of this one. I think it's like one word.
Yeah, it was crap.
Did you make it through the whole thing?
I made it through the whole thing, and even after reading Brightest Day and some of the touches and stuff in there, which seemed kind of weird.
Yeah.
It didn't grab me at all. And I have nothing against Liefeld. I mean, he's done some great X-Force and stuff over the years that I loved. And yet everything I've sort of picked up by him recently just loses my interest really quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was hoping the book was going to launch off of Brightest Day.
Yeah, it did.
And because I liked the new Hawk and Dove that was brought in with the Dead Man and connection and stuff like that. But this book,
yeah.
Well, funny saying that. I was not looking forward to this book. With you guys' reviews, I even wanted to read it even less. I didn't like them. I'm a big Birds of Prey fan. I didn't like them in there either. So yeah, I didn't bother. So I just kind of let it go.
Yeah. Justice League International, real quick. Let's do this guy. Dan Jurgens, art by Aaron Lopresti. This is basically a new take on the Justice League International, which was the kind of classic 80s and 90s JLA team. Kind of a bunch of B and D-list characters. Again, I was really excited for this. I thought this was going to come straight out of Generation Lost, the Justice League miniseries. It felt maybe the most old school of all the comics I read. I didn't dislike it. It just did not feel as fresh as the other titles.
Yeah, I can understand what you're saying about it not, because I was hoping, like you said, Justice League Generation Lost was a good jumping off point.
Yeah.
But this kind of didn't even resonate with any of the power that came out of that book, because I really enjoyed that run. For me, I enjoyed it. I mean, it was a nice throwback to kind of the old Justice League International, which I've currently finished reading recently because they had it out in trade. I enjoyed it. I'd like to see where they go with it. To me, it was something that I don't mind picking up every week. So,
yeah. Charlie?
I read the original Justice League International. I remember picking up the original trades, and I loved a lot of the characters in there, so it was very easy for me to do back then. And what kind of bothered me the most about this book is they've actually done a very good job of building up a lot of the characters in Justice League International over the past couple of years, with Booster Gold getting his own book, and as you said, Generation Lost. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff going on, and this kind of put everybody back to where they used to be. It's kind of like you kind of had this really good push, as you said, from Generation Lost and everything, and nothing really came of it.
Yeah. Toby?
Well, I didn't get to read it. It's on my to read pile. But being an art guy, I got to say, I like Aaron Lopresti. He's
not his best work though.
No, not his best work. But I just want to say the artist is a great guy. Go meet him. Go talk to him at cons. He draws really, really great monsters. He should have done the Swamp Thing book, actually. He loves drawing creatures. But like I said, really great guy. I got a couple of art pieces from him. Nice. Like I said, I wish him well.
Yeah. At this rate, we're not even going to get through 1 week, let alone 2 weeks here. So
no, we will. Let's just keep going. We might
even
have some surprise short.
Well, I was going to say, let's make this even a little faster. Men of War #1, Ivan Brandon and Tom Derenick. I actually thought, again, had no expectation going in. This is just a modern day retelling of what's his face, Sergeant Rock and Easy Company, modern day take on a classic DC war story. Again, I went in with zero expectations. Better than I liked it. I actually did like it.
I didn't pick it up. Didn't read it. Had no interest.
I liked it. I kind of gravitate towards a lot of those old school World War II people like them and the Black Hawks.
But again, this is a modern day take on that, so I was expecting it may not work, but I was actually happy with it.
Oh, absolutely. It actually read pretty well.
I haven't read it yet, but I probably will now. So yeah,
I might do trade.
Yeah. OMAC #1 by Dan Didio and Keith Giffen. Very, very new take on a classic Jack Kirby character. This seems like they're kind of going with a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde sort of deal here. Definitely falls under the had very little to no expectation going in. It was okay. I actually like Keith Giffen's artwork. I think he's a pretty decent artist. He does that great Kirby kind of clone. Dan Didio, he's obviously done great stuff personally with DC. His writing's not so hot.
Abysmal.
Not so hot.
Abysmal.
I actually halfway enjoyed OMAC #1.
I'm not a big Kirby art style fan.
Yeah.
So Keith Giffen does. I'll pick up some things that he does, but I'm not a big art fan of his. But right. Dan Didio, I'm not impressed. So I had no interest, so I didn't read it.
Charlie.
To a degree, the story and such being an introduction, I kind of already know some of the stuff they've done with OMAX, not necessarily OMAC, but so there wasn't too much new to the story to me, but I really enjoyed the art.
Yeah. Didn't even read it?
No, I didn't read it, so we can go ahead.
All right. I'll do Static Shock next. We'll finish up the first week of the little ones, and we'll actually talk about the big ones. Again, Static Shock, Scott McDaniel and John Rossum, art by Scott McDaniel as well. And John Rossum's already off the book as of issue 3, so that's obviously he's not sticking around. When not a fan of the show, not a fan of the character.
Static Shock has a show?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's where
it even had
started,
crossovers.
Right? Yeah, that's where it started.
He was a comic book character first.
Was he a comic book
He was
first?
part of Milestone.
Okay, I didn't know that. I thought the show came first, so my bad.
I thought it was a kind of bland, generic Spider-Man story. And I won't be back for number 2. Didn't do anything for me.
Didn't pick it up, no interest.
I watched the show. I know the character, and it didn't grab me in this comic.
Yeah, I'll watch some of the show, but I haven't gotten to this book yet. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Yep. I think we'll do Stormwatch again. This is actually one that I would consider to be a very, very big, very good book. But like I said, we got so much to cover here, so let's do this fast. Stormwatch is Paul Cornell, and the two people's names I actually can't pronounce on this art.
Miguel Sepulveda.
I'm sorry. I was looking at Demon Knights. Okay, so when we get to Demon Knights, I can't pronounce their name. Sorry, Miguel Sepulveda, artist on Stormwatch. I was never a big Wildstorm fan. I never really read too much of it. I read Wildcats and a little bit. Stormwatch, I've read the Warren Ellis stuff, but I never kept up with it. I thought Stormwatch #1 was fan-fucking-tastic. It felt like a crazy Grant Morrison story. Just total balls to the wall. Just no explanation of anything. You don't need it. It's just craziness. The Martian Manhunter was badass in it. Stormwatch is actually one of my favorite books of the relaunch so far. I really like #1. I was really excited by it.
I'm not really familiar with the current Stormwatch characters from Wildstorm before the relaunch, rejigger, whatever. I picked up. I enjoyed it. It was okay. I think it's a little jarring. It possibly for people who are just coming into the title, because these are really characters that kind of need an introduction but don't really get one in this book. So
I never read. I barely read. I never read any of the recent. I haven't read any Wildstorm book in 8 years probably. So.
Well, to be fair, there hasn't been a lot of let's just put it straight.
Yeah.
Charlie.
I actually really like the Stormwatch book, and I followed all the Warren Ellis Stormwatch stuff through the end, and then of course you kind of pick up with that. I mean, this is in some ways more the Authority than Stormwatch.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I like the Midnighter at the end.
Yeah.
They got me very, very excited for the next issue. So yeah.
That's good stuff. And I think let's cover up Swamp Thing here. I guess again something I consider to be a very, very major book. But Scott Snyder is the writer. Yannick Paquet's the artist. That first week, they front-loaded so many fucking awesome books in that first week. We'll get to a few of them more in a second. But Swamp Thing #1, I loved. I was actually a little taken. It was a little confusing that Superman was in it. I thought that actually kind of felt a little off to me.
You know what?
But I was okay with it by the end.
You know what? It was like we talked about with Action Comics. There was kind of this throwback to kind of key things out of a character's, history. Mm-hmm. And Swamp Thing having Superman come in, I thought was a really good take because I've recently read the Swamp Thing stuff,
the Alan Moore stuff,
and you kind of get DC characters coming into this book randomly. So Superman coming into Swamp Thing kind of was a throwback to those Alan Moore books where we're starting to get, the DC characters coming in and kind of interacting with these alternative characters that they had. So I enjoyed it. I think a lot of people didn't like Swamp Thing because it was very slow.
Oh, I've heard almost nothing but good things about it.
I heard a couple of people were like, I didn't like, but I enjoyed it. Scott Snyder's been doing a great job. I hope he doesn't get burnt out.
Yeah.
5 books right now.
Yeah.
But I really liked it, and the art was really cool.
Yeah.
So it fit well.
Yeah, I actually really liked the book. I mean, I just came out of reading the Brightest Day Aftermath and such, so it kind of took some of the stuff from there and everything, and it just read really strong to me.
Yeah. Toby didn't read it, it sounds like. What's up, Toby? Give you your homework.
I'm trying. I'm actually got a lot of them in the next couple of
titles.
I'm just joking.
Yeah.
You're the one to talk, Mr.
I'm just trying to sign you that you can skip me. You don't actually, I don't actually have to. Yeah, if I have nothing to say, you could go ahead and skip me. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to signal you. Going, don't waste time on me. I'll say if I have something to say. Yeah.
Well, there actually are 3 books that I think were 3 of the biggest of the relaunch that actually was first week, and kind of for 3 different reasons. Number 1 would be Animal Man by Jeff Lemire and Travel Foreman. This is the book that I think is going to define the New 52, specifically because, holy crap, who expected this book to be, 1, as awesome as it was, and 2, to sell as well as it did, and to be as well received as it was. And I'm a huge fan of the old Grant Morrison Animal Man series. I love Animal Man. I've mentioned this before. I love the kind of more obscure characters. This Animal Man book is like as good as any of the Grant Morrison stuff, 1 issue in, maybe even better than some of it. I mean, this first issue was fantastic, but just the how well received it was, the interest level in this book. This is what I think the New 52 is about. It's not about Batman and Superman and Green Lantern. It's about this book and I, Vampire and DC Comics Presents and Men of War. Like, this is the stuff that it's something different than the superhero stuff. I mean, I talk about superheroes. I love superheroes. Animal Man, for all intents and purposes, is a superhero, but this is a horror book, and it was one of the best, and probably my top 2 or top 3 titles of the relaunch. And
this is something I realized about this whole DC relaunch is they're trying to push everything. I mean, they're trying to put quality into all their obscure characters, like their B-lister. They're trying to put good teams on everything. It's not just it's not just about the Justice League or the Batman and the Green Lantern books, and it's not that kind of. That's not it.
Right.
They made sure that every single book, there's something special about it.
Right.
Whether you love it or hate it, they made sure that they put something into every single book, which is pretty darn amazing if you think about it.
I mean, there's a couple of missteps, but
yeah, I'm going to try.
When you're talking at least 45 out of the 52 books, I would say are solid or higher.
It's a pretty ambitious project if you think about it.
An amazing amount.
I could just imagine the editors' heads blowing up over this whole project they're trying to put together. But
it worked.
Yeah.
Well, it's been so long since I've read it. I'm actually going to have to borrow a second print and go read it again because I already filed it away. But I really enjoyed Animal Man. I think the artwork is a nice blend into bringing Vertigo into the DC world.
Yeah.
Or Vertigo title into the DC world. The artwork doesn't work for mundane stuff, like when they're in the house at the beginning.
But I think it makes Trevor Foreman's art. I think just makes everything else so creepy.
Like it is creepy. I mean, the story was really good, and like the bleeding eyes was intense. And like you said, it's a good kind of horror story kind of take on Animal Man. But yeah, I was surprised at how well it sold.
Yeah, it was actually outside of Green Arrow, which I think we covered in the previous podcast. We didn't get enough copies of Green Arrow. Animal Man was actually the first book we sold out of. It was maybe the second or third most requested one we've had since we sold out of it. It is the highest. Oh, I'm sorry. It is the second highest I ordered on the second prints. It is the only one I've not been able to restock from other stores because who the hell ordered this? And like I said, I think if a book is going to define the new 52, it is going to be Animal Man. Charlie, what's your take?
I really enjoyed it, but I was a little surprised it's not a Vertigo book. Just reading it reads more like a Vertigo book to me.
That's because there is no Vertigo as far as the DC characters go. Those characters are all now in the DC universe, and I think this is DC. This is DC saying...
Unless it's creator-owned, right? I mean, we still got the Fables and...
Vertigo is now all creator-owned books except for Hellblazer, which they realized, we're just going to keep Hellblazer separate, but John Constantine's here.
Yeah.
But I think this is DC really focusing on the fact that, look, we have to acknowledge that our main target audience is adults, not necessarily children. An adult can read Swamp Thing and see Superman... and then read Superman or read Swamp Thing and not be like, oh, look, there's crap I don't want my kid to see in here, you know? I mean, this may be a point of contention for some people, and some people may consider this a bad thing, but I think making a lot of these books extremely accessible to an adult audience is I personally feel a good idea.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I that's the first time I actually held it in my hands. Because we were sold out.
Yeah.
You know, this is actually the first time I actually got to flip through it. So maybe next week I'll let you guys know what I think of it.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm fairly excited. Yep.
The other two are again two of the most requested, the most popular books from this list. Batgirl #1 by Gail Simone, and who the hell did the art on that? Adrian Sinoff. I can't remember.
Adrian Siaf.
Yeah, I'm terrible at pronouncing his name.
Siaf.
Batgirl was one that I went real high on. I think a lot of stores under-ordered. We sold a ton. Probably the biggest change to a character going from Oracle to Barbara Gordon going from Oracle now back to Batgirl. I thought a solid first issue. I know some people are sad at the loss of Oracle. I think one of them sitting at this table. Maybe two of them are sitting at this table. But I think this is I don't think we've lost anything yet. And it's not like she can't still be Oracle if she wants to be Oracle. So we'll see what happens as it goes off. But again, a huge success for us in DC. So
this is a title I was bummed my girlfriend didn't get a chance to read before we recorded this because I wanted to get her take on it because she has absolutely no prior knowledge, no prior interest. I kind of wanted to get a fresh take on it.
Yeah.
I understand why it was jarring for some people because,
Sure.
Oh, you weren't paralyzed or you were paralyzed and now you're not. How did that happen? So, I mean, it's something that's hopefully going to unfold within the next, because it's not really explained here. But, I mean, I enjoyed it. It was a good read. I mean, it flowed really well. Yeah. It was nice to kind of see Batgirl, the hooded girl, was a bitch to find in the title. But, yeah, other than that, I'm kind of disappointed that Oracle's not around because I really like the character.
Yeah.
But we'll see where, I mean, Batgirl's Batgirl, so we're going to see where it goes. Because I've never really liked any of the other incarnations of Batgirl since Barbara Gordon. So
What?
What?
To me, that's actually one of the great things about comics in general is everything comes around. Right now, she's Batgirl. We'll probably see her as Oracle again down the road. And personally speaking, loved her as Oracle, but my first introduction to Barbara Gordon has always been Batgirl, so that's how I always associate her in my head first. So I'm really excited to see her back as Batgirl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So I guess
Toby's going to be the dissenter here.
I think I'm the most opinionated about this book. Number one, I'm a big Barbara fan.
Well, and you mentioned earlier, I mean, you were a huge fan of the original Take on Birds of Prey.
Yeah, I'm
into the Gail Simone stuff. And
I love Gail. I love Birds of Prey. I love Barbara. I love Black Canary. It's like, that group is what, drew me to comics for many, many years. And it's my favorite things on it. Now, I've said this numerous times when they announced the new DC 52, and when they said it was like a soft reboot, they said, the Batman history stays.
Yeah.
I was really like, all right, you know what? I can do this. If the Batman history stays, I think I'm cool. Then I read Batgirl #1, right? So I'm like, first of all, I mean, Oracle to me is such a deep character. And DC taking that away from her almost takes away from the character, for me at least. And it didn't bother me if she's walking again. You can explain, it's comic books. You can explain it in so many ways. But to me,
soap operas do it all the time, right?
Yeah, but to me, it seems like they took away Oracle. We don't know yet. We don't know yet. We have to keep reading. Right. But if she's hacking her dad's, cell phone to get the text to know where to go, it doesn't seem to me she's the super brainy chick that, hacked, FBI computers, world government, stuff like that, which bothers me a lot, you know. And she's only, paralyzed for 3 years in this one. So, but with that said, the book reads like a Barbara book. Gail nails Barbara all the time, and reading it, it's Barbara. It's not, it is Barbara. So, like I said, I miss Oracle deeply. She was a great, fantastic character. I thought DC was wrong in doing this. However, I'll keep reading. I think Gail is doing a fantastic job.
Should we be playing taps right now?
Yeah. So, no, I mean, like I said, I like the book, but, I'm very... I like the Batman history. I like, the different Robin stories. I like the Nightwing story. I like, I like the Batgirl stories. I like Cassie. I'm a big fan of Stephanie, and I feel very odd that they're not in not yet at least, in the history of these new books. And, that's what's not sitting well with me, but I'll keep reading. I like the book, though. I like the book, yeah.
Well, for me, that's actually one of the things most exciting about this relaunch is I love delving into the history and what's been changed and what hasn't, and that's part of what gets me excited to read the books each week is to get just a little bit more of that puzzle to figure out exactly what did they change.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to me, it's like there's this big chunk of history that, got taken away. But like I said, we'll keep going and we'll see where it heads.
We got one last book for this first week. That's if Animal Man is the defining book as far as a small book hitting big, I kind of like this one as the big book that hit it big. And that's Tony Daniel's Detective Comics, which is the Batman book. If there's one thing I think this first month of relaunch has shown us is the importance of a last page shocker.
Yeah.
Can I just say wow? This is something that comic books need. They thrive on. This is not a Bendis 22-page talking head book that ends on a small panel in the corner that's not important. It's part 6 of a story that's going to be continued for a trade paperback. These are single-issue comics. Every issue is important. The last page of Detective Comics has been the most shocking last page I've read in a comic book in years. And something that is it's again, they had some of their strongest books in that first week. You have Action Comics, you have Animal Man, and now Detective Comics. I don't want to give away the last page in case you haven't read it or you haven't seen it yet, but for my money, this is one of the most shocking last pages I've seen in a comic. Definitely not PG rated. It's a little bit of it's a little gory. It's a little gruesome.
I would put this as a teen plus. I wouldn't let my 7-year-old read it.
Yeah. This is definitely a little on the extreme side, but
for different reasons about that 7-year-old, right?
I did not love Tony Daniel's run on Batman before the relaunch, but this first issue totally changed my mind.
Well, I think that, back to what he said, I mean, I loved this issue in the sense of it had that grabbing, action, moving kind of Batman story where we're going and going and going. And then at the end, where we're kind of finally winding down, or we get that final wind down, it's like it slaps you in the face.
Right.
So, and it's one of those things. And like you said, Tony, I know what you mean about Tony Daniel's work on Batman before.
I thought it was okay.
It was okay. I liked it. But I think before he was kind of had to work within Grant Morrison's Batman Incorporated world,
right?
Where this opens it up a little bit more. It's not as rigid as it was beforehand, how it had to be when Morrison changed it.
Yeah.
So now, Daniel has a little bit more room to play around and have fun with it, because we are changing not only the Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, all the main characters. We're changing the villains too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this kind of is a really good premise book for what's going on with the DC villains in this new rejiggered 52.
Even to that, I remember something Ryan told me when we were first talking about this book after it came out, and one of the things I love about a lot of sort of changing this kind of history and being able to explore stuff is Batman's no longer encountered the Joker 600 times.
Yeah,
he maybe encountered him 6, and it brings on this sort of still trying to understand his adversary,
right,
which I've always loved. Any time they've kind of gone back to tell some of those early Joker stories in Batman Classified, or even going back to like The Killing Joke and stuff, I love when they explore that relationship, especially in the early days.
Yeah. Well, the dynamic between the Joker and Batman, Nolan captured it excellent in The Dark Knight. I mean, the interaction that they had in The Dark Knight was amazing. And even the interaction they had in the Michael Keaton one was amazing, because it was a very, very... Joker and Batman are good versus evil, and it plays out every way. It's just playing it out in a good, solid way that appeals not only to, the people rooting for the good guy, but also the people rooting for the bad guy at the same time. So... yeah, like you said, it did bring us back to kind of these, really good Joker stories like, Killing Joke and Last Laugh and all that stuff. So I was disappointed there was no fish in this episode.
Well, I was almost not going to read it. I kind of just picked it up.
Charlie, can you hit him, please?
Yeah, I was almost not. I picked it up and read it, and I was blown away. This is the most surprising. I think I called Ryan that night. I read it like at 11 or 12 at night, and I called him right out, and I was like, I can't believe this is like awesome. This is amazing.
And aren't you a big Tony Daniel fan?
I am. And, it's funny. Here it comes back to I don't tend to read the Batman books. I tend to read all the Batman books are not Batman, if that makes any sense. Like
you read
the Bat
you read the Bat Family or Bat Universe
and I tend
books,
to read all the Batman books as trades. Hence why I almost was going to just read it later, but this book really blew me away. I even want to go as far as saying that Batman may not be the main character in this book. When I read this, it didn't feel to me like it felt more like a Joker book.
Yeah.
Joker and Dollmaker.
Yeah.
So that's like the character that's sort of in the background during the book that you don't really know what's going on with this character.
Exactly. And I'm very, very excited for this. I think this is this and Superboy are probably my two biggest surprises in this whole 52. So,
well, that's the thing
book.
is like you and I talked at length about this, and you said I was an asshole and I was wrong, and my opinion doesn't matter for shit. But Detective Comics and Action Comics are the stories that are kind of supposed to be those. They're supposed to be detective stories. They're supposed to be action stories, but they're not supposed to be focused on action as a Superman book, detective as a Batman book.
It's the funny thing, in action, it was Lex Luthor that surprised me. This one's Joker.
And that's the thing is like action. Grant Morrison's action went back to the original action, so it worked. In detective, though, we get that really good feeling like we had at the end of Detective when it just finished with the Skeleton Key story arc by Scott Snyder.
Yeah.
Amazing. They're not really. It's not really a Batman heavy book. You see more characters interacting and everybody else that's going on. So it's almost as if we're getting kind of that Gotham Central application to the book. And it's a nice kind of different take on it. So that Detective's not just a Batman book. It's a kind of a Batman connected book, but we're getting everything else. I really enjoyed it too. So,
well, I think we're clocking a little over an hour here, so
just keep going.
Yeah, we got it. Yeah,
we're good. We're good. So let's haul some ass here and do September 14th, the second week here. Except for one or two of these, I don't think we kind of have the big breakup books in this list, so we'll just do this by release here. Batman and Robin by by Peter Tomasi, Patrick Gleason, and Mick Gray. This is basically just Batman and his kid Damian running around being Batman and Robin. This is basically a continuation of the book that was launched prior. Good solid book. I love Damian. Damian's one of my favorite characters in the last handful of years. Fun Batman title. I've read it before. I'll keep reading.
What's the creative team again?
Oh, it's Peter Tomasi.
Oh yeah, Tomasi. Tomasi does the Green Lantern Corps stuff.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed his Green Lantern Corps stuff. And honestly, and don't hate me, but I didn't really enjoy the dynamic in Batman and Robin that Morrison wrote. It to me was
Morrison wrote mostly
Dick Grayson.
Yeah.
It was a completely different dynamic,
right?
Which I love. By the way,
it was a different dynamic, but like I felt that there was more. Like this was more of a Batman and Robin book than Grant Morrison's Batman and Robin, because Grant Morrison's Batman and Robin should have been D&D. You know, I really enjoyed Batman and Robin because of that father-son dynamic where you have he's not a father and he's not a son,
right,
but they are father and son.
Right.
Yeah.
So I actually met Mick Gray over at Elusive's signing. Interesting guy. Yeah, the Inker.
Yeah.
Really,
Great guy.
really nice guy. But yeah, I really liked it. I enjoyed it. Somebody mentioned that having a pool above a nuclear reactor was a stupid idea, and I'm like, what are you, a moron?
Hell, it kind of is a stupid idea, but whatever. I let that slide. I wasn't worried about that.
You know, going back to McGray, for those art collectors out there, he's a good guy to hit up for some of these expensive art pieces, art pages that he's selling, you know, that some of the, you know, famous artists drew, and he has some really good prices out there, so that's a little mini tip. Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. We'll keep reading it. Like it a lot better than the Morrison Batman and Robin. I mean, I enjoyed Morrison's, but this one I like a lot better.
Yeah, I actually really like this Batman and Robin book. There's certain parts of it that I'm really hoping they kind of explore more and run with, and it definitely sold me. Pretty much all the Batman books did.
Yeah, I read it. I'm so-so on it. I was really excited about it after I heard what Ryan said about it, and read it, and I was like, kind of, all right, I'll read the next one. I love Damon also quite a bit, especially his interaction with Stephanie, the other Batgirl. That was kind of fun. However, after that, I read, you know, Detective Comics, which kind of made this book go like, you know, really, it dwarfed it. Yeah, so that's kind of, we'll see.
Batwoman #1. You know, this is one of the big ones of this relaunch. So J.H. Williams.
This has been a big one, and it wasn't originally part of the relaunch.
Right.
It was originally supposed to come out months ago.
Yeah,
they delayed this book.
Well, they delayed it to put it into this.
Exactly.
In order to kind of bump up the numbers a little bit, to give it a little more exposure. Also to give probably J.H. Williams a little bit of extra time to get a few issues in the can, because he's a slow artist. Batwoman, this book continues directly out of the previous run in Detective Comics, directly out of
Batwoman
the zero
Zero,
issue.
yeah.
Right? This is a book that I think is, for all intents and purposes, probably will be completely pre the 52 relaunch for probably the first handful of issues, because I know there's going to be alternating arcs, alternating artists. At least J.H. Williams is still going to be writing it, but I know Amy Reeder is supposed to be doing the art on a few issues. But this is
Amy Reeder.
Yeah, but this is you know, this was J.H. Williams is one of the best artists in the industry. Hopefully he can keep the schedule and do this book regularly. Batwoman's a real cool character. One of the very few, possibly the only gay character with a lead title. Am I wrong? Am I right in
Blue
saying
Beetle?
that?
Isn't Blue Beetle?
No, Jamie's not gay.
No.
I thought, okay.
It's the only gay.
Currently, at least.
Current top.
I mean, from Marvel DC, as far as I can tell, I don't know of another one.
Someone. No.
And so this is kind of a big selling point to this book for some people who are activists for that sort of forward movement.
I can't wait for gay rights to have Batwoman.
Hey,
That'd be actually kind of cool.
I know.
Yeah, that'd be very, very, very cool. Brian, Jack Harkness.
We all read the detective arc, I think. Here.
I did.
Yeah.
So that was.
I really enjoyed the detective arc for Batwoman. It was a really great take on a character that came out of 52, and a continuation of a character.
The previous 52.
Yeah, the previous 52. The actual 52 one a week thing that came out 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
I've actually been looking forward to the Batwoman book. I was almost tempted not to pick it up because of the delays in it. But I really enjoyed the story. I think out of the Bat books, this title was the one that felt the most, kind of new. Like it stood on its own, even though it had small little ties to the rest of the Bat family within it. But it did feel like it kind of stood on its own as a kind of independent story of what's going on, even though there is the Batman does come in and say, yes, you're incorporated. So
yeah.
But love the art. Love the magic underwear in this issue. What?
Stop talking about things you read on the internet.
What?
Charlie.
I have to sound, cultured. God. I'm reading comic books.
I really did enjoy reading Batwoman, but anybody who's picking it up, I tend to suggest going back to the Detective Run and the Batman issue 0 because it's all still there. Yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
Well, it's funny because I'm one of the guys here that didn't read the Detective Run. So reading this book was very interesting because I didn't have a clue what the heck was going on.
I could see that.
Yeah, it was like, it was a fun read. I have to say it wasn't bad. I just no idea what's going on. It was just like, all right, this kind of has some creepy horror feel to it. The art is cool, and the last panel, again, very, very cool stuff. I'm very excited about what could happen, what's going to go on. I'm very interested.
Well, and the back to the artwork, the style of Williams, it
has a Vertigo feel to it.
It has a Vertigo feel to it, but just the way you have to absorb the artwork in this book is like a task on its own sometimes because it's not just
the panel layout itself is art. Not just the art. The way he lays the panels out make images themselves, which is something that very few, if anyone, does.
Yeah,
so.
And amazing book. And you finally. How long did it take for you to tell that there was a skull on this poster here? Like you just noticed it 2 weeks, like a week ago or something. Yeah. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm excited about the villain in there too. Yeah, I'm very interested.
Next book on the list was Deathstroke by Kyle Higgins and art by Joe Bennett and Art Thibbert. Hey, actually covers by Simon Bisley. That's kind of neat. I don't actually think I realized that. Deathstroke's a longtime Teen Titans villain. He's pretty much the same here, but no seeming connection to the Teen Titans. I thought this book was one of the worst books I read until the last 2 pages, and then I thought this is one of the funniest and best books I've read of the whole time. It is a cheesy, dumb, like just so stereotypical book, and then you get to the end, and even the end may be a little like you kind of see it coming, but it was awesome. And again, don't want to spoil it. Survive those first 18 pages. The last 2 make it all worthwhile.
Well, for me, the point of this book, and I enjoyed it for the same reason, is Deathstroke is a badass.
Yep. Yes, he is.
I knew that going into it, and I knew that coming out of it.
But when you read those first handful of pages, were you just like, this is cheesy as hell?
The thing is like, I'm not a big Titans fan. So, but I've always been interested in the character of Deathstroke, especially after Last Will and Testament, where, he's throwing down with Geoforce. And this book, I was reading it, and the entire time I'm reading it, I'm like, okay, they're redoing. This is definitely a character that they're rejiggering around, and it's not going to be. And so I'm like, okay, he's doing this. Very predictable, kind of like, whatever, why are they doing this? But, yeah, like you said, at the end, when it's just, it hits you in the face at what's going on, this book could have been a one-shot.
Yeah.
And I would have been like, please give me a series of this.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm really looking forward to issue 2. Especially to kind of see what's going on.
It's kind of a one trick. You can't do this like every issue.
Oh, no.
But it was the hook it needed to make me buy issue 2.
Issues like this, in between story arcs, in any type of book, would be amazing. But just a really good self-contained one story. Because I seriously, when I was done reading it, I flipped to the front and went, okay, it's number 1. That means there's going to be more because it doesn't say one shot or of 3 or... So yeah, but I like Deathstroke. I thought it was interesting and funny at times. But yeah, Charlie, you got any more?
As I said, Deathstroke is a badass.
Gonna move on. Demon Knights here again, kind of like Animal Man. This is a book that I'm very happy to see as well received as it was. A lot of people thought something that's gonna be killed after 6 issues. It's Paul Cornell and, like I said, Diogenes Neves and Auclair Albert. I'm sorry for butchering your names. This is basically the DC universe in the 1200s.
Yeah, medieval
somewhere,
times,
medieval
the
times.
dark age, or
It's every random fantasy and horror and sort of demon character thrown into this sort of world. It's a lot of kind of set up to all these different characters. And again, the last page that just literally blows the doors off the whole issue. And I'm like, I'm like, Paul Cornell, you're a fantastic writer. That was great. And again, like the way they wrote these issues, it's like set up, but it's not like an origin. And then that last page just grabs you, and I'm in for number 2. And the art's fantastic as well.
Well, I wasn't really interested in picking it up. I didn't, and you've told me to pick it up, but we're sold out. We're getting more, so I'll probably give it a try. But initially, I wasn't interested in it. But with the buzz, I'll check it out and give it number 1.
Now, Brock, maybe me and you next week will have a little hit list. So go, these are the books I missed, real quick. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
I absolutely loved Demon Knights. Loved the art, loved the story, loved all the characters they managed to cram in there, and it all worked perfectly.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a fan of some of those obscure characters, this is the book for you.
We are going to be getting more of those in, right?
Yeah.
It's first prints?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Frankenstein, Agent of Shade, number 1 by Jeff Lemire and Alberto Ponticelli. Covers by J.D. Jones, too, one of my favorite artists. Jeff Lemire, same guy that wrote Animal Man. This is a book. Now, I actually I didn't read this book before Brock. I think you read this book before me. No? You did not read this?
I skipped Frankenstein.
I had like 3 or 4 people tell me that book was bad. That book sucked. The art was horrible. I don't know what these people are talking about. I'm not going to say it was my favorite book. I thought it was a fun book, but I thought the art was exceptional and totally fit the mood of the book. It is a very Vertigo-like style, very dirty, very rough art, and it fits the story. This is Frankenstein's like a modern-day take on the Frankenstein concept. It was Grant Morrison reintroduced this character to the DC Universe during the Seven Soldiers miniseries back in, what was it, like 06 or something?
Yeah.
And then brought him back in the Final Crisis as well. And he's teamed up with the Creature Commandos, which are a group of humans made to resemble Hollywood monsters.
Johns had brought them back in action in his Action Comics run, and they've had a spattering of things during Blackest Night,
Flashpoint
with the Superman Batman stories, and there was a couple. And I really, Justice League Generation Lost, they were featured in. And
I really like the Flashpoint miniseries as well.
I couldn't get behind the Flashpoint miniseries. I've liked the characters since I read Johns' Action run, and kind of seeing these characters pop up every now and then in books is kind of like a nice, refreshing kind of like, oh yeah. But I was not sold after the Flashpoint mini, and so I passed on this one.
That was actually my one sort of problem with this book, is the fact that I just read the Flashpoint mini. I actually recently reread Seven Soldiers. So reading this book felt like I've already read this book 2 or 3 times recently.
Yeah. We're going to move on to Green Lantern, number 1 by Jeff Johns, Doug Mahnke. Covers by Ivan Rice.
Now, I have, before you start, this book is literally jumps from the last issue of Green Lantern.
It's not even
this isn't even this book barely was touched by anything that happened in
and thank God for that.
Yeah. Now, I know there had been some people kind of like, the War for Green Lanterns was sort of meh. You go from one event to one event with Green Lantern, little event fatigue. I thought this is one of the most solid issues of Green Lantern I've read, probably in the last year.
Yeah, it's Charlie. You're gonna chime in a lot, so let me give my 2 cents. I've enjoyed what Johns has done with Green Lantern. I have had event fatigue from reading the Green Lantern books. I like having a break every now and then and getting, small little stories that kind of ground us to who the character is.
Well, I should say before we go any further, it's not Hal Jordan. It's Sinestro. And what I thought was one of the most interesting points of this, and this is something that I mentioned when we were talking about JLA briefly, when we talked about the first episode. You have not seen Hal Jordan out of a costume, his feet touching the ground, in like 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, very briefly here and there you will. I mean, he loses his power rings, he gets stuck on that planet and stuff like this. But we actually have Sinestro has the ring, he's a Green Lantern. You have Hal Jordan is just Hal Jordan, he's on Earth. And I like the change of pace. And I don't want it to last forever, but I like the change of pace. Kind of refresh Hal.
It's a grounding of the character and bringing us back to it. Because this book seems to now follow, instead of, like Green Lantern follows Hal Jordan.
Right.
Like before, this is following the Green Lantern. Because there's always been this kind of who's the best Green Lantern out there kind of thing running in the background of Green Lantern books, where it was like Sinestro's the best, Hal's the best. It's one of those things where it's been in the background, but this book was where we focused kind of like on these two main Green Lanterns, where it was Hal is grounded and Sinestro has the ring, and does he still want it? Does he not want it? It's starting to answer the questions that came out of the Johns run. And Charlie, I see you twitching, so go for it.
Well, I absolutely love the whole John's run and everything. I kind of wish there was a little more content in the first issue coming back, just because I've been dying for this book since that last issue of War of the Green Lanterns. I've been waiting as Aftermath books came out and everything. So I was kind of dying for this book to finally come out, and it finally did. So I kind of wish there was a little bit more in it.
You almost broke down the doors to get it right when it came out a couple weeks ago.
Well, anything Green Lantern, really.
That being said, I am, as much as yes, I'm dying to see what goes on with Hal, dying to see what goes on with Sinestro, but I'm dying to see what's going on with the Guardians, too. Yeah. There's all sorts of plots and stuff going on in this book, and they're all kind of equally interesting.
And again, great last page. Great, fantastic last page.
Yeah.
Well, so I actually kind of got lost in the whole giant Green Lantern stories. So, I'm not as up to date as everybody else here. However, with that said, I love the X-Men stories where they're just playing baseball.
Yeah.
I love the that's what I'm missing about Marvel right now. It's like big event, big event, big event. I actually love the character, the everyday stuff they do. I like the, Wolverine go get a beer, and that's kind of what the issue is
issue
about.
Was 73, 72 of Wolverine, where the 7 days, where he's like 7 days a week, and it shows like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet.
That was an awesome issue.
Yeah, but see, these are the things I really like. I like my comics to have the big events, but then I also like the more grounding stories afterwards, which is where I got lost in Green Lantern after big story. I read this, and I really liked it. I like the Hal Jordan stuff. Like you guys said, I haven't seen Hal Jordan being Hal Jordan. I love the fact that he was still trying to be a hero, as he's jumped over this, the building trying to go save this woman, and they were shooting a movie. I love that scene. It just shows you the character. I don't think we ever seen a superhero trying to come back to real life. I don't know if we ever saw. I mean,
not really in like a modern,
not like this though. Like he's trying to borrow money. He doesn't. He's getting evicted.
Well, this is sort of a throwback to the Green Lantern book from the 70s.
Okay.
Green Lantern at the time, it was. There's a great podcast called Tom vs. the Flash or Tom vs. JLA, and now he's Tom vs. Aquaman. And he actually had some kind of great commentary. He kind of goes over every issue of the series. He kind of talks about the plot of it. But he made some hilarious comments because I've only read handfuls of these issues, but I went to listen to his whole podcast where he goes through every issue of Flash. And Green Lantern was regulated to backup strips for a while in the Flash comic, and Flash was and Green Lantern was just a sad sack. He was homeless. He was just trying to do these things. He was like living in his car in the woods and stuff like that. And it was kind of like this. I mean, it was. I wouldn't want to quite see that, but it was a very humanizing of this very alien character, which again. Despite it's
the amazing spire. It's the Peter Parkering of a character where we see the character dealing with normal everyday life. On top of that? Do I want it on a Spider-Man scale with Hal Jordan? No, but it's nice to kind of see that little.
Well, do I want Hal back with the ring? Yes. Do I want Sinestro back as a villain? Yes. Does it have to be now? No. Does it have to be in a year? No,
I think it's a great story.
Let it flow for a while. Let's try something different. You can always go back. Green Lantern has been one of their most successful properties. Not in the movie theater, but at least in the comic.
Let's see about DVD and Blu-ray.
Hey, man, I'm going to buy like 7,000 of those Blu-rays and DVDs.
Just to make sure to make a sequel?
Exactly, just to make sure.
So you're buying me a copy so I don't have to dish out money for it again?
I think that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
Me and Charlie, making everybody
I already have it pre-ordered.
Oh, me and Charlie, we're going to have to do a Green Lantern, a whole episode talking about the special edition packages of the Green Lantern.
Does it mean you're going to finally watch Daredevil?
Yeah.
The director's cut that's actually halfway not that bad?
I like that one, by the way.
I actually going to have to pull Toby here. The next book we're going to talk about real quick.
Wait. I want to say I liked Miss Ferris in The Green Lantern #1.
Yeah.
I liked how she handled Hal. I thought that was very enjoyable. So, like I said, I really enjoyed the book.
Like a lot of superhero comics, it's funny because
side characters need to matter. Yeah.
Well, there's that,
yeah.
and we'll actually discuss this more next week. But I think it's funny. I see a lot of people in comic books talking about how women. There aren't as many women comic book characters, or they don't tend to count, or they tend to be like Starfire. We'll get
sex objects
stuff we'll get into later.
Yeah.
But I think people really need to look at characters like Iris West and like and like what's oh my god, my brain just shut down.
Carol Ferris.
Ferris, thank you. Is not just side character. I mean, these characters.
Yeah, and she was strong in this one.
Right.
She handled Hal.
They're as important as the main character. I mean, I get the damsel in distress.
We don't
argument.
need Carol Ferris loves Green Lantern, but having Carol Ferris be a strong character in Green Lantern is good.
Yeah, very strong in this one.
Even then, she's serving a very vital purpose in this book, given the fact that Hal had his ring taken away. She chose to take hers off, and kind of shows exactly how much Hal let the ring start to define him before it was taken away.
Yeah.
With that said, though, there's a lot of female characters in these New 52 books that I really enjoy, and they're not sexy. Like Power Girl.
Yeah.
She's not the objectifying girl that we've been seeing in comics in ages.
Right,
I mean, she's just a solid, strong woman.
We'll actually get to Power Girl in just a few minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
Grifter, I want to get through one or two of these real quick. Grifter by Nathan Edmondson and art and cover by Kafu. I actually didn't read this. It's in my stack of stuff to read still. I just there's a couple of books I did not actually physically purchase, and this was one of them. Not a big fan of the Wildstorm stuff, like I said. I'll
kill you later.
I'm definitely going to read it, but I just haven't had a chance to read it yet.
I picked it up. I've always liked the Grifter character. I thought this book was interesting. It had some action, but also some amnesia. So it was a little bit jarring, kind of, to read. And after the disappointment of the last kind of Wildcat series or Grifter series not going anywhere, I really want to see where this goes in the book, especially crossing over with what looks like Voodoo and a couple other characters. So we'll see. But I enjoyed it. I mean, it wasn't great, but it was a good read for me.
I actually really enjoyed this book, especially the whole idea of this guy wigging out due to stuff that he's seen in his head that nobody else sees. Works for me. It works for me, the fact that it's really easy to paint this character as a bad guy or a good guy, depending on who's looking at it.
Now, Toby, I think you had some pretty strong feelings on that.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm being a big art guy. I'm a big fan of Wildstorm. I think all those guys are great. Danda, Lopez, JJ Kirby. I talk to them regularly at conventions. I like all those guys. The new guys. And I'm a big fan of the Wildstorm characters too. And it's funny because Grifter is actually one of the books, besides the main ones, I was most excited to picking up reading because, this is like my, Marvel Gambit, Gambit in the Marvel universe. Grifter is my, kind of like badass side character that I always loved. And I was ready to read this book where he's going to kick major ass, which, he did in this book. But to me, I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy the book and I didn't like the take on it. I missed the old Grifter, which he might become in this, but right now I'm not really liking. With that said, though, I think DC's been doing a really good job of planting the Wildstorm characters into the universe, and they ground them in there.
Yeah.
So they're not just like thrown in, So with that said, they've been doing a really good job. I just didn't enjoy the first issue of Grifter. In fact, I'm not even sure if I'm going to pick it up yet. But I'm going to keep going.
So move on to Legion Lost here, which is by Fabian Niciez and Pete Woods. This is a Legion of Superheroes book. Funny that it came out before Legion of Superheroes. It's like kind of the spin-off book. Basically, a bunch of the Legion guys have now come to modern-day 21st century DC. I liked this book. However, if you'd have never read the Legion, do not buy this. And I'll just say, to save you, the other Legion book either. They make absolutely no sense if you've never read the other Legion books. They basically take place... Well, the Flashpoint event has happened between the last issue of the last series and this issue. The Flashpoint Flash book happened. Something has blocked them off from traveling through time regularly. There's some plague on Earth. It's cool. I like the Legion. I like this book. It was well written, but I totally understand if you've not followed the Legion, especially not recently, there's no reason to buy this book. Literally, this book has not been changed at all.
Yeah, the Legion Lost book, because I just finished reading Legion Lost, the Dan Abnett and Lanning take on it, where they were actually lost.
Now, that was fantastic.
Yeah, that was amazing. This book was titled wrong. I enjoyed it. It was an interesting read. These characters haven't changed with Flashpoint, so I'm not really sure what's going on. But they're not lost. They're still on Earth. They're just lost in time, but lost in time while you're on Earth.
Oh, they're lost.
Right in a cave, and somebody will find it, and it'll change time. Right?
They're lost from the 31st century.
I think to me, taking a title like Legion Lost hurt the book, because for me after reading it this doesn't really hold up to Abbott and Lanning's Legion Lost. So I enjoyed it. Is it if you've never read Legion, you haven't even read the last Paul Levitt's run on Legion, don't pick it up, because you're going to be like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So I already came into this book knowing some of the Legion. I've read it off and on recently, but for me, I kind of wanted a nice relaunch for the Legion in general. I kind of wanted a nice, fresh jumping on point for people, because the Legion is really good characters. There's a lot of good history there. So I was actually very disappointed when I read this book, and it was so grounded in everything and what came before. It kind of felt pointless to me putting it as part of the New 52.
Mm-hmm.
We're on the way for a 2-hour-long podcast here.
Awesome.
So let's do this. Yeah, we thought we were going to do this all in 2 hours. Mr. Terrific #1 by Eric Wallace and Gianluca. Mr. Terrific is the third smartest man in the world, and they actually kind of make the joke in the first issue about that. But like, that's such a random thing to do, especially with so many people in the DC universe getting like magic brain expanding powers. So does he keep track of like if he's 5th or 7th at the time? Or?
Well, they've been doing that kind of stuff in Marvel as well recently.
Yes.
With trying to define, well, he's the smartest.
Yeah.
He's the second smartest. Nobody really cares.
Right.
They're smart.
Right. So Mr. Terrific is a long-time Justice Society character.
Who is the smartest man in the world, in our world right now?
I would say that is me. No, I'm sorry, that would not be me. I would say the smartest man in the world. It's that guy that's on
me.
It's on the commercial where he's like, sometimes I don't drink beer, but when I do, I drink.
Oh, that's that guy.
I think that
the
guy
most
is
interesting man in the world.
But I think he's also the most smartest man in the
he
world,
is the
because
smartest
that
man.
guy, those commercials are pretty.
If he would read comics, he would read only the 52.
That's probably true. That guy's the best guy that's ever existed, ever. Although sometimes those new commercials have been a little dumb. Anyway, why the hell?
I still love them all.
Mr. Terrific, again, a book I kind of heard some crap about. I think I just read this last night. This small stack of books I'm still working my way through. Better than I expected. I know, Toby, you were talking, you like Power Girl in it.
Yeah, it's funny.
Sorry,
so
not Power Girl.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know.
Right.
She is just a strong female character, and she's not the sex object she's been before. She's just like a
Karen Starr.
She's a great character, and I really enjoyed the book because of her, actually. I gotta be honest, the JSA readers out there, please don't kill me. I haven't read Mr. Terrific book before this.
Well, there hasn't been a Mr. Terrific.
Yeah, well, no, I mean,
this.
in the JSA stories and so on, I haven't read them. I've seen them on the Justice League Unlimited cartoon and so on. I know of the character. I've seen him around. I have no clue, nothing. And this is nice about this new 52. I'm reading a lot of books that are new to me, even. So this is actually a really good thing DC is doing. It's really pulling me in. I actually didn't pick it up until I heard that she's in there. And I'm a big fan of the Amanda Connor, storylines. I like that stuff. Karen was a great character in it. I like the scene between her and the other woman, and I'm very interested in what's happening next. And
is she and Mr. Terrific dating?
No.
Yeah.
No, but they might have had history, so we'll see.
I didn't pick it up. I have no interest. I like Mr. Terrific in the...
Again, it's the last panel that makes you want to read, the next thing. So it's been a fun time to read. It really pulls you back of the old days of reading comics, where you go by that 1-2 issues, you read them, and you go, oh my god, when is next week coming along? So it does give you kind of a throwback at that time.
I mean, Really, the only times I've felt like that in the last handful of years have been some of the Green Lantern events, something like Identity Crisis or Infinite Crisis.
The last time I felt that in a comic book was issue 23 of Brightest Day.
Just waiting for the last issue and...
No, the Swamp Thing reveal at the end. That was the last time I actually was like, when I read the end of a comic book.
Here's the funny thing: these are all big books, right? These are small books. This is what makes me. These are the books I love. You know, I like I said, I barely read the big crossovers. I usually wait for a trade. It's small books I always loved, and I'm really happy that the small books are getting all the attention right now. You know, it's just even. It's not just the big books, and the small ones don't get the attention. It's like it's fairly even across. You know, so I'm very happy with these books right now.
Yeah, I actually really like the Mr. Terrific book. I was a little more familiar with the character, having read all of Johns' run on JSA and such.
But I've read it up to the bitter end. Ugh, that last year or two was rough.
But pretty much what it really comes down to for me is I could just sit down and read this book and enjoy it. There wasn't, as I said, what sort of disappointed me about the Legion book is I was looking for a nice sort of read to just sort of jump on board and kind of decide if I care about these characters or not. And I got that in the Mr. Terrific book. It was just nice jumping on point to get to know the character again.
Yeah, I didn't pick it up, didn't read it. I didn't really have any interest. But I mean, I like Mr. Terrific's character. I really liked him in that last time story or alternate reality story that was in Justice that Willingham did.
Yeah, Bill Willingham.
I really enjoyed him in there, but I've never really been a big fan of the Justice Society, so I passed on it. But I mean, in trade, I might flip through it.
Yeah.
So
we got a few left here. Red Lantern by Peter Milligan and Ed Benes. It's Atrocitus. It's Bleed. It's motherfucking Dexstar. It's Ed Benes. What's not to love? This book was bloody as hell, and I love it. I got nothing else to say about this book. I thought it was fantastic. I just thought it was crazy. I love Bleeze. She's so badass. And I love Dexstar, too. He's the best cat that ever existed.
Pretty much anybody who's been given the red ring so far has been pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
Well, okay, my thing is does Lobo still have a red ring?
Who knows with the new 52?
Does Lobo even exist anymore? I don't know.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is, like, I've really enjoyed, like, the Red Lanterns, you know, since Johns introduced them, and, you know, they've been spewing blood across the galaxy for God knows how many years now. I felt this book slowed it down a little bit with the kind of...
We're going to get into Atrocitus' origin.
Yeah, we're in his origin, so I understand why they're going this way.
We're going to get a little more backstory. It'd be interesting to see if they do this, though, and I don't know if this is the plan, but I almost wonder if they're going to do, like, a year of Red Lantern, then, like, a year of Blue Lantern.
Yeah, that would probably be pretty... That would be pretty cool to kind of get it to change up. But I think that what was jarring for me the most out of it was, can Bleeze please have a standardized costume? I mean, God, the image of her before she becomes a Red Lantern in Tales of a Lantern Corps.
Yeah.
There's a picture of her bathing in a thing with her actual angel wings, which I want to get tattooed on me because it's so awesome. But yeah, her costume keeps changing, and it's like so jarring. She's like the Red Lantern she's like the fashionista of Red Lantern. It's like God. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Charlie,
I definitely liked the book. For me, just out of pretty much all the corps, the Red Lantern Corps is the one that you just don't want to go up against. I still remember in Blackest Night when you kind of get that oh crap moment when Atrocitus gets his heart ripped out, and he keeps on going.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't read it yet, but I think it's very interesting that Ed Benes is on this book, and I think he's been getting a lot of beef over doing too much eye candy books, a lot of fan service books. So I think it's very interesting on DC's behalf to put him on a book like this, where there's not a lot of female characters.
Yeah. You get a little bit with Bleeze, but it's like, but I mean, there's almost more Dexstar in the book.
Yeah, so it's very interesting that they did that.
There's a great 2-page splash of Dexstar just like tearing someone apart.
Yeah,
and
it's really funny if there's a Ed Benes fan out there that's like, I get my next chick pin up, and there's this cat, no, I'm not drawing naked chicks anymore. I'm drawing a cat with a ring.
Just so you know, it's still pussy.
Oh,
somebody had to make a joke. Okay, I'll take it.
We've now earned our explicit tag.
Pussy.
Resurrection Man, written by Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning, art by Fernando Dagnino. This is DNA that we were just talking about that did Legion Lost, the original one. Resurrection Man is one of my favorite obscure-ass characters from the 90s. Real short-lived series. Basically, every time he dies, he comes back with a new superpower. Leads to some hilarious Hitman crossovers. Again, a character that basically disappeared after his book finished. I think he was in like a Superman Batman like issue. I think he appeared in like one issue of something somewhere, and like that's again a great character. Good first issue. I didn't think it was fantastic, but I think it was a solid first issue, and it's cool to see them going back to some of these obscure, weird characters.
Didn't he show up in one of the Flashpoint books?
Did he?
I don't.
I just know I read something with him in it recently before this.
Yeah,
I don't remember
I thought it
what.
was Superman Batman.
No, you know what? I think it was Flashpoint 1, where the group gets together. I think he's in the group.
Wow.
I don't know.
I don't know. I read all the Flashpoint books, so it's kind of all blending together.
You know what? I was going to say, actually, kind of like Animal Man, I was a big booster of the series to a lot of the customers, and I think I literally have one copy left on the shelf. And I'm real happy to see that I've had a good reaction to this.
You've told me about the Resurrection Man series, and I've wanted to read it. Thank God they're coming out with the trades, the older stuff. So I can go back and enjoy some of that. With this, you've kind of talked about the slapstickiness, the funniness of this character, like especially with the crossover with Hitman.
No, I mean, there's no slapstick and funniness to the character. The Hitman thing is a very specific one kind of time deal, but the many deaths of I'm calling him Pete Shelley. That's a musician. Of Mitch Shelley.
Yeah.
I like the way you can find out kind of like different. It's sort of like a weird, like almost like kind of Saw sort of deal, like where it's like, oh, how are we going to kill him this time, and what powers is he going to come back?
How are they going to kill Kenny?
Yeah.
No, I was really excited. But
not quite as not. I mean,
Abbott and Lanning did
a
great job with this first issue. Very, very dark, very streamlined. I mean, I'm tempted to see what he comes up with next, especially after he croaks. What power is he going to come up with now? Because I mean, this character is something that you can expand with and have a lot of freedom to go, oh, well, we need something, this is an issue. He dies. What does he come back with? Something that completely doesn't work for the thing. How is he going to get out of it?
Right.
Even though you don't want him to die, but he dies, he's going to come back.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, even then, his name's Resurrection Man. You kind of need him to die from time to time.
Yeah.
I don't need him to die every issue, but
No, I actually really like the Resurrection Man comic. It flowed very well for me. I'm definitely looking forward to reading number 2.
Well, I'm kind of curious what happened to the Hitman, since we're on this one.
Didn't Hitman die?
Well,
I was just like, I'm really curious since you brought it up. I'm kind of,
We will not see any more Hitman comic books, I don't think. I mean, Garth Ennis came back for a 2-issue run, like, later, just like a little one-shot. I think Garth Ennis is pretty much out of American, like Marvel and DC Comics. I don't think you'll see him back. And Hitman is a character. I don't know what the ownership status is, but I believe it's sort of like one of those, they're not going to do anything kind of without his okay, and he probably won't okay anything.
That's a major bummer.
It is. Oh, it is.
I'll never say never.
Suicide Squad, which came out, was written by Adam Glass and Marco Rudy, covered by Ryan Benjamin. That's one of your guys, isn't it?
Yeah. Love Ryan Benjamin.
Me and Brock actually talked about this at length 2 episodes ago when we did our Suicide Squad episode. So I don't think go back and listen to that if you want to hear anything on that. Charlie and Toby, you want to say anything there?
I enjoyed the first issue, but knowing the characters, it kind of played off very predictable. But I kind of like the new lineup, and I'm curious to see where they go with it.
I know in one of I don't remember if Gage mentioned this when we recorded, if this was after, but I know Captain Boomerang is scheduled to be in an upcoming issue.
Yeah, he's supposed to issue 3 or 4.
I think it's 4. I'm happy to see him come into the series because he's a great character.
Now, let's make it clear. Ryan Benjamin did the cover.
Yeah.
That's right. All right. No, I actually really enjoyed the book. Well, Ryan always talks about the old Suicide Squad, so it made me very curious about this one. I really, really like the book. It's one of those where you read through, you kind of like, all right, is this going anywhere? When you get towards the end, I'm like, all right, this is a kind of a cool book. It reminds me a lot on this movie called The Recruit with Colin Farrell. It's very similar because they keep going through these tests. And, everything is like a test. And it's felt very similar. It's like, things are not real, things are not what they are.
Yeah.
Even though they think it's real, it's very similar in this. So I very much enjoyed the book. I actually like the Harley take in this one. So a lot of Harley fans might not like this. But
Yeah.
me being not a big...
about Harley on the cover, you should buy it alone. Huh?
Yeah, but me being not a Harley fan from the Harley of past, I actually kind of like this take on Harley. So I enjoyed actually these changes here.
Well, I like Harley Quinn's character. Has always been the kind of all ages look, so to speak.
This is not.
And I like how they've been taking different takes on Harley Quinn in past few years with Batman Arkham Asylum had one take, and there's even a new take in the Arkham City video game.
Right.
And so she's kind of getting
I'm sure it
a
had a
little
lot
bit more
to do with this new look.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I like that Harley has a kind of this new look, because now she really fits with that Joker that we want to see.
She feels like
where,
a badass at this point.
It's like you see Joker and his suit
counterpart,
and this is his counterpart who's constantly changing her look, but she's still Harley Quinn. So I really enjoyed Suicide Squad, so I think everyone should pick it up.
Yeah, great book.
I think we got one left here. Superboy by Scott Lobdell, art by R.B. Silva and Rob Lean. Real quick, I thought it was an okay first issue. I thought it was pretty decent. It didn't blow me away, but I enjoyed it. But Toby, you're a huge fan of this. What?
Yes.
You're a big Connor fan prior to this.
Yes, I was I'm a huge Connor fan.
I want to hear your take on this, because actually I don't think I've heard your take on this.
Yeah, it's really funny because this feels like a prequel. This feels like the Connor stuff we never got to read. Connor just, we read about this time.
He comes out of the tube with the sunglasses and the jacket on.
Yeah,
basically.
so, they kind of jumped ship on that one. But, this is the time that would have gone before that story arc.
I actually have not thought about it that way, and that's actually a really cool way to look at it.
Yeah, and, I'm a big Connor fan with the T-shirt and jeans. The new costume doesn't bother me. But I was this was one of the books I'm like, I love Connor so much. Kind of like Barbara. I was like, I don't think I'm going to like this book. I really didn't think it was. This was one of the books I called you, too, late at night. I'm like, dude, this book is awesome.
Do you think, real quick, do you think this is in response to the Young Justice animated series?
Well, I almost think this all started with, is it the Jeff Johns Teen Titans, where they, set Lex Luthor as the basically birth father, the human gene, and they really play on this.
It was the Teen Titans Outsiders cross.
Yeah, and they really play on the whole, characters of, Superman's character and Lex Luthor. Now, the biggest surprise, besides being a really awesome Superboy book, is that Caitlin Fairchild is the book.
Right.
Being a big Gen 13 fan, this got me very excited. They made her really, it seems like they're laying all the groundwork for it. She might never become the Fairchild we know of her in, in Gen 13, but I really, really like this take.
No, it is not officially stated in the book that this is Caitlin Fairchild, but it is clearly her, and it would be a dumb thing to make it anyone but.
Yeah, and again, she is just a very strong female character.
Sure.
I gotta buy this book because Gen 13 characters in it?
Yeah, no, it's... I have to say this is
I don't have the book in front of me. Maybe you know off the top of your head, but there was a couple of characters in this book from other series. Wasn't there?
It was Deathstroke's daughter.
Oh, yeah.
Rose,
she was there.
Rose
Tyler.
Yeah, Doctor Who. Yeah.
Jeez,
sorry, that's another
Rock out
Martha Jones, and
that's another podcast.
Oh, no, that's Doctor Who reference.
We will go on forever. All my love
Doctor
interests
Who
on that
reference.
show.
Yeah, I'm not.
But no, there's a lot of
I
references.
just keep doing
in there.
Doctor Who shout-outs.
Damn it.
But yeah, I love the book. So I don't know. I go on, you guys. Fantastic reintroduction of Caitlin.
Yeah, I didn't pick it up. I've never been a big fan of Connor. If you get some more copies in, I'll flip through it, just like Demon Knights. But it's with a lot of the 52. It was I want to get what I want to get and see what I want to see what I want to continue getting. And there's been a couple that I've been disappointed with, and I'm not picking up. And there's been a couple that I didn't initially get.
Yeah,
but I'm gonna try them out. So, cool. But I'm a Charlie Superboy.
The Superboy, again, was one of those that, based on the cover and the little bit I knew of it, I was very kind of worried if the book was going to work for me.
Yeah, the cover didn't do it justice. I'm sorry. Yeah.
But reading the issue, within like the first couple of pages, it was definitely working. It was definitely playing off well, as Toby already touched upon. I love how, because this is a relaunch, because you don't really know where anybody else is, anybody can show up in any book and they can kind of just fit. It's actually really nice that way. Going back to what Ryan said about in response to the Young Justice TV show, I do think to a degree that this is bringing a certain amount of that back to what people are now familiar with watching that. And I mean, it seems to be doing well for them in terms of having the show going and having some stuff like this going on.
So this book set the premise for that whole Red Hood and the Outlaws controversy with the 7-year-old reading about a slutty starfire.
What?
Huh?
Did it?
Well, if it's kind of basing off of the animated show, come read the Superboy.
No.
But Superboy's not going to be, he's not man, he's not out there trolling for some.
It's a conversation for next week.
Aww.
I have to say, though, I was so excited about Caitlin, I had to call a very good friend of mine, and he's a big Gen 13 fan as well. We were the ones that, bought all those J. Scott Campbell books and loved those to death, and still read them.
You still buy all the J. Scott Campbell?
Well, I buy them over and over and over and think I don't have them. I keep buying them. So, anyways.
Any of you have J. Scott Campbell collections, contact Toby here.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I told him about this reboot. I told him that Caitlin is in the book, and I told him the take on it. And him being a big Gen 13 fan, I found it really interesting. He loved this take on it. He loved, this take on Caitlin on it that we never really got to see. So,
right.
Because in Gen 13, she's already Fairchild, right? So he actually really liked this take also, and he's actually very excited about this book as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that's kind of one of the things that we're 1 month in, and I've never seen a launch like this in the history. I've been literally working in comic stores for 20 years, and I'm only 32 years old. So do the math on that. There's no apparent
child labor laws.
Yeah, there's no child labor laws in Massachusetts where I grew up. Apparently, there's literally been no excitement level like this before. There are some people that aren't going to like every book, but I think we've seen, even these first 2 weeks, I have some of the most excitement I've seen in any comic books. And we're not just talking one title or one crossover or one graphic novel or one event. We're talking 52 titles. And I mean, anything higher than 50% average of good is awesome. And we're talking like 85, 90% across the board. And it's just amazing.
It makes statistics online that you saw where Red Lanterns gets a half star out of 10. Kind of ridiculous.
I've seen a couple reviews where I don't know what these people are going for, but I think if you've got an agenda to push or if you've got a real axe to grind with some of these books, I can see you not liking them, but if you're an actual comic book fan who just likes reading fun superhero comics, and in some of these cases, not even superhero comics, these are almost across the board solid titles. And honestly, even the couple that I didn't really care for, I'm still going to recommend them to people. I mean, if you like something like Rob Liefeld, Hawk and Dove, I'm not going to say, oh, Jordan, read that book. That book's garbage. I think there is excitement in all these books, even the ones that don't work for people. It's hard to deny.
Well, that's the beauty of doing a launching point like this is, not all the books are going to be for you or going to be for me, but there should be something in there for everybody.
Well, even that. I mean, I've had people that only come up with 2 or 3 titles, but I'll tell you what, that's 2 or 3 more than they were reading before, and that's probably 2 or 3 more DC titles they were reading before. I mean, I've had hardcore Marvel fans switch over. I've had super casual people who haven't bought comics in decades buying comics. We have kids buying comics who never bought them before, both on the digitally and through the store. I've seen discussion levels that I've never seen to this level. There's always going to be some negativity, but I think ignore the stuff that doesn't look good or don't look interesting. Pick up, try everything that you want, and I think you're going to be surprised.
It's funny. With all that being said, the books I thought I was going to be excited about were not the surprises.
Yeah.
It's all the ones I didn't even think I was going to pick up. Those were the ones that were like, I was blown away by it.
Well, I think
I'm into it, yeah.
when you go in, Jeff Johns, Jim Lee, JLA, you can't live up to that expectation. I mean, I've literally built this book in my head for 2-3 years now.
Yep.
And I think it's a solid first issue, and it's going to make a fantastic trade paperback when it's out, and it's going to be a great story. But it is just kind of one part. The fact that these books like Animal Man and, later we'll talk about I, Vampire, which I think is sort of the other Animal Man of like, what a surprise hit. And I'm so glad to see some positive reaction to that book.
Or the new take on Wonder Woman.
Woman, exactly. Well, 3 out of 4 podcasters agree that Wonder Woman #1 was fucking fantastic.
Yeah, and I don't even remember the last time I cared. Yeah, I really don't.
But we'll talk about that next week.
Oh, yeah, we will.
3 out of 4.
No, but back to what you're saying. I think this 52 does offer a lot. It offers single character stories. It offers, team stories, big team stories, small team stories. It offers space, like sci-fi stuff. It offers fantasy stuff. It offers a wide range of titles that aren't necessarily something that, that anybody can get into. I mean, it's so there's a jumping on point for a lot of different ways in this new 52 for people, and it's probably like you said, a lot of these titles carry the weight on their own.
Yep.
You were saying Toby. You were saying the surprises weren't necessarily the ones that you were excited about. They were
and it's the real surprises.
Yeah, it's the little gems and stuff.
Yeah.
That you're finding throughout the books and stuff like that. So.
And I love the side characters. They've been very seated, very well done. So overall, great, fantastic job.
Yeah, I mean, I think almost every single book has introduced a couple new characters, whether it's new villains or new side characters or friends or family members or what have you. And again, I think this is something we can discuss in length at another time. But I find it interesting that very few, if any, are that kind of straight white male character that I think is such a strong presence in comic books. I've seen some number crunching done where the amount of there's still a lot of white men in the comic books, don't get me wrong, but there's a large number of supporting characters and other characters in this book. So DC, I feel to the best of their ability, really are trying to expand out the market and target different titles and target different readers with different titles.
And I have to say this, I like the way that DC is doing it. They're not forcing it on you. These characters are what they are, right?
Yeah.
It seems like over at Marvel, not to hate on Marvel, but it seems like they're forcing some of the main characters to switch, when they did Marvel 2, to switch genders, now they're switching ethnicities.
Yeah.
But they're doing it to characters that are already established. I don't really like that. I enjoy it more when it's, either a new take on an existing character, a side character they want to bring to the foreground more. Totally fine with this. I totally like their way of doing this. And with that said, also, there's a lot of people that come in here that surprise me. Like, there's a guy that came in here, talking about Bane at one point, and he loved the fact that, Bane was South American. And, it never dawned on me because, I don't associate Bane like that, but there's a lot of people out there with different ethnicities that really do, connect with these characters on a different level than, we do with, like, some of these characters we do now. Like, I had a strong bond with the Cassie Batgirl just because she's Asian.
Well, I was going to say, there's a large Asian population in this area, and we have a lot of Asian customers. And I know, Toby, you and a number of other customers have always expressed interest in, like, in Cassie, Cassandra, the Asian Batgirl, as well as I know one of our customers is a huge fan of Ryan Choi, who was the Asian Adam. And so, who apparently is going to be in the new Justice League. I think diversity works.
He's already in there. You just didn't see him.
Yeah, I think sometimes it feels a little forced. But I think this all feels genuine.
Yeah, I honestly feel that. Yeah, I do feel like that. This is yeah.
Well, I think we're going to talk about it next week. But a good example of what we're talking about is Superman had a lot of characters coming in, but it wasn't forced on you. It kind of just flowed naturally with, the kind of characters that were coming in.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, oh, this one's African American or this one's, Asian or this one's,
It just feels natural.
Latino. It's like walking into, a place of business and there's just people working,
Maybe it is kind of being in the Bay Area, which has an extremely diverse group of people.
Yeah.
small town I grew up in Massachusetts. I mean, literally, I think I mentioned this before. We literally had the black kid in our school. I mean, this is just the way it was.
You know, referencing that, there's a customer in here that loved, Static Shock. And he is very attached to Static Shock. Again, he connects with it on a different level than, any of us probably read the book on, because it makes a lot of sense to him, the way that those characters interact. That's his world.
Yeah.
So, I respect all of that. No, I think it's very great that, comics are doing that these days.
Because we're always trying to find ourselves in our comics.
Yeah, we do, I think.
Yeah. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Maybe after I edit down some of the silence and grunts. And
silence and grunts?
I don't think we talked straight through.
We talked straight through.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe this will clock in just shy of 2 hours, but if not, you're looking at a little 2-hour-long podcast here, guys.
Yay.
Yeah, well, crap, that was half. We'll be back next week for half. Charlie, Toby, you guys good?
Yeah.
Next week?
Oh, do we want to talk ape? I'll make it fast. I can make it really fast.
We had like a 20-minute intro, so I figured
we'll add it to next week.
And our outro is even
because
longer.
I think you have a couple things to say about that
too.
too.
We'll do Ape next week.
All right.
Oh my God, yeah. We'll do Ape next week.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah. So, Charlie, Toby, thank you very much for stopping by. Brock, always you're on this podcast. I'm not thanking you.
Yeah, I don't know why you're thinking you hate my guts.
Yeah. So we're going to head and wrap this episode up now. We'll be back next week for the second 2 weeks of books and maybe a little talk on some number twos, since we'll have a few weeks of number twos out by then. If you want to email us, you can send us an email at thecomicconspiracy at thecomicconspiracy@geekbox.net. You can visit us at www.geekbox.net. That's where the podcast is hosted. You go forums.geekbox.net. Seriously, I just need to record this once so I don't mess it up.
Press a button.
Yes, I don't mess
but
it
this
up.
is half of the entertaining. This is part of the entertainment process because they want to see how we screw it up every time.
Well, Brock's favorite thing is when I first put the headphones on when we start to record, I'll smash myself in the face with them every other time.
I need to start videotaping it.
Yeah, so the other funny part is
And then I'll have a GIF.
Watching me bumble over the outro at the end.
Just waiting for you to start a YouTube thing going with the bloopers from this.
Oh, God.
Didn't we have a crossover? We had a YouTube crossover, right? What, a couple weeks ago?
A YouTube crossover?
Oh,
We had a
right.
YouTube crossover.
Yeah, when we went outside and recorded the fire.
That's true.
Yeah.
Fire follows Ryan, by the way.
This close to opening a Twitter account. Just under the shit Ryan Higgins says on Tuesday nights. I'm almost going to start it.
When that door closes on Tuesday night and I got to put out all the new books, oh boy, it's not pretty. Anyway. Forums.geekbox.net. You can go there, talk to us about comics.
Just don't talk about Ryan's hair. I think that set him off once.
What?
Yeah, I think that was one of them.
If you're in the Sunnyvale Bay Area and you want to come visit us, you can come visit the store. We always like having people come by. We like talking comics and selling comic books, so you can do that. We also have the digital storefront if you like to buy our comics digitally, which Image is actually going day and date on a lot of their titles through Comixology. So if you
I think Severed's been up for the past week for day and date, or last month. Last month. Yeah.
So a lot of those just went up officially. That's digital.comicsconspiracy.biz. Other than that, we'll be back next week with the rest of the 52.
You can check out my blog.
Oh, right.
conspiratorbrock.blogspot.com, which hopefully within the next week or so I'm going to get it reduced down to just conspiratorbrock.com.
Nice.
So
we'll throw up a link for that.
Go daddy.
Toby, Charlie, you got anything you want to pimp?
No,
not this week at least.
Eventually, though. Eventually, plenty of things. But no, I'm just glad.
Yeah, Toby's gonna pimp something.
Oh man.
Your back history on pimping.
Uh-oh.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and shut this episode off. We will talk to you guys next week.